This podcast is brought to you by the Disabled But Not Really Foundation, a local Kansas City nonprofit organization that pushes to instill a physical limitless mindset that breeds courage, confidence, and competence within the disabled community. You can follow and support Disabled But Not Really on social media or go visit their website at disabledbutnotreally.org. Their work and their mission is to really impact communities and make more people understand the benefits of inclusivity.
And Wes. Oh, we're live. Hi, everyone.
All right, there we go.
Good morning. Oh, good afternoon if you're on Eastern time. Those who are on the West Coast and Pacific Standard Time, or international, it's a good morning. And I'm April Jackson. I'm so excited to be here. Like, my heart is really filled right now because there are two people who I just love to death right now. Wes Hamilton is here. Hi, Wes.
What's up, everybody?
Oh, I'm so excited. You guys, I was just sharing, Wes and I were together for the first time last week since 2019.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
It was amazing though. It was I'm still on a whole different level about that whole experience.
We did it, right? We did it, and then you did a whole lot of other stuff too.
So thank you, April. Thank you for the experience and introducing me to your family. That was dope.
Thank you.
I've still been talking about it. I talk about it every day to somebody new.
Wonderful. You are a part of our family. We had a good time. We took what we did last month, and we made pottery. We made mugs. We actually went to I don't know if it's a collective of people who make pottery, of artists. It's in a Black neighborhood. It is founded and supported by all people of color. And Vanny taught a class for us, Asian American woman. It was just beautiful to see all of our faces together and putting our hands in the clay. So we have some stuff, a lot of footage from that. And we're excited because Octavia, I was telling her, I have a Starshine Clay t-shirt from her business, her company. She does everything. And it's almost full circle for me, Octavia, because I applied for a grant that a girlfriend sent me. Sanctuary in the City, I think, was the grant. And I think I applied like March 10th. And then COVID hit March 16th. And so I didn't receive the funding. They're like, hey, we have COVID. We're going to have to hold on to our funding and whatnot. And then through that connection, I was getting a lot of emails and communications, and you kept coming up. They're like, there's this woman who's doing a workshop for Black women. She's doing another yoga collective for everybody else. And I just started following you through there. And I was so amazed and so in awe at what you were doing for everyone. And then you had a rest workshop for 4 months. And I so wanted to do it. And so through this collective Open Up, they were like, go do it. We have it, April. We'll take care of you. We'll pay for it. And so, I started emailing Octavia back and forth, like, when can I pay? When can I do this? And you were so patient. And you're so beautiful. You're like, yes, we could do it this way. And we could do it that way. And I had the most amazing experience with you leading my cohort of women through months of time of just healing and restoration and clearing space for all of us. So I thank you for that. And I'm so glad that we have you here because you are an author and you have a new book, Pause, Rest, Be, and we welcome you. Thank you for being here this morning.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much. Yes, book. Yes,
Just had to show it,
Thank you. I have it too, but it feels the way when I do it. So thank you. So I'm very happy to be here in this moment with you all that I'm sure many people are tired. If you're not tired, say I'm not tired in the chat, right? Like there's some way that everybody is fatigued. So I'm happy to be here to have a restorative conversation and to also rest and read with you all.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. We wanted to talk a little bit, and the chat is open for any and everyone who is with us live. It's our first time live on Twitter, so Wes is our social media guru, so his people might really be chiming in. But we do want to hear from everyone because, you know, one thing that I've learned in connecting with you, Octavia, is that you hear people and you're a listener. And it's like, I sense this ability for you to just gather, and then you gather and bring us all in, and you're able to like really help us settle. And I have chills even saying that, because the words I'm using, I don't think really describe the power of what you're able to do, and tying it in with ease, with flow. Like resting brings all of that out. And I'm happy that you've decided to use your pen and use your words and use your person to do that. Thank you again.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
I love it. I actually want to chime in real quick because I want to kind of set the tone, right? I feel like, you know, before we got live with everybody, just listening to the conversation, and then just even your question, you know, at the beginning, you know, are you tired? Do you need rest? You know, chime in if you're not. Let me tell everybody first, I had literally, you know, drove myself to like exhaustion mentally, physically, and emotionally just from just coming into the new year. Like I dealt with a lot and I just kept going. And that's why I was so like happy about the experience I had with April, because it gave me a moment of peace and rest and something to just come back to life, you know, and I just, what I wanted to do is set that tone of just that transparency, because a lot of people see me and they always see me going and they see my platform, but no, like you know, every day I was tired, you know, and I couldn't explain if it was tired from working, if it was tired from, you know, physical activity, or just not giving myself time. So like, even as I received this book and I just started to, you know, just skim through just a little bit, and it was just things that kind of just stuck with me from a point of just understanding that we all need to pause, rest, right? Like, and do it again. And so I just wanted to go into that. So Octavia, you know, you're not just kind of talking to the people out there, you're talking to me too, you know, and these are things that can really help me. And I just want to bring that transparency so we can kind of set that tone.
Thank you. I appreciate that transparency. And you know, my transparency is that I teach what I need. Right? I actually think most people do. And I share the medicine that I need to stay close to. I teach rest to stay close to the hymn of rest, because you know, if you've read the intro to the book, you know that what brought me to rest was a physical and mental and emotional, and I would say spiritual breakdown, right? Because one part doesn't break down without all the parts actually getting broke down, right? And I chuckle when I said A, from discomfort, right?
Yeah.
And I just want people to know that I don't teach about rest because it's just easy to me. I teach about it to remain a student of it. Um, yeah. So thank you for sharing that transparency, because I don't think, you know, we live in a culture that doesn't privilege rest, that doesn't respect rest, that doesn't, if we don't collectively create rest for each other and be really creative about how we support one another's ability to rest and take respite, there will be none. Because the systems and the machines that rage on are not gonna say, hey, April, West, anybody, you might be tired, take a break. They're gonna still be emailing you on Sunday morning, right? Like, so and so I talk about individual rest, but more and more I'm becoming really aware of how within our families, within our communities, within our workspaces, we have to um, find ways to support one another in resting before it's apparent that we need it. Sometimes you might see a coworker and when they're about over the edge, like, ooh, maybe you should take a break. But it's like, how do we build in a culture of rest within the spaces that we work? I'm very interested in that these days too. So I know y'all have questions, right? So I want to go if y'all want to start with any specific questions or just chat about rest.
I was thinking, and if you guys have questions out there in live stream land, again, put them in. A couple of things, which maybe a question will come out of it or not, but I was curious. Like, I felt like, I'm sure a lot of people feel like they know you because you're a teacher, right? And you connect with so many people. But when I read you had rhabdo, which I was real surprised, and Wes and I can relate to that because coming from a culture of CrossFit and working out and exercising and people don't discuss, like, you can get rhabdomyolysis, your body can literally break down by doing the things that you think you're doing to take care of your body. And people usually try to fight through that as opposed to just stopping and healing through it. I was really happy to hear how it didn't seem like it came easy for you, but you used it as a stop sign to say, okay, this is a stop sign for me to rest. And now I'm hearing like it's gone to maybe am I wrong that you looked at this viewpoint like as an individual and now collectively, like how do you feel rest will support the collective in our families, in our jobs, and in our communities, and ultimately in the world?
Yeah, so that there are some layers I want to speak to within what you just said. And first, we get messages. We all get messages. It starts out as a whisper, then it's like a hey, hey, then it's like hey, and then it's like louder and louder, and now it's screaming, right? And so rhabdo was the scream that I could not ignore. And before that moment, I just was reflecting on this about a month ago. I had fallen asleep at a red light. I was leaving work and I fell asleep at a red light. And so that was not the scream yet. The scream had to, so the reason why the hospitalization was jarring and it moved me forward in a new way was because upon reflection, I realized I'd been having so many whispers and messages and signalings that the way I was going was not sustainable on all levels of my being. And so this moment, when I reflected on this moment of falling asleep at a red light, leaving my job, I was a public school teacher. And as many of the really committed ones, which are everyone I worked with, was the most committed public school teacher I ever knew, right? And we worked 12, 14 hours. We just worked all the time and it was never done. So I'm leaving that job, getting to another job I had, and I fall asleep at this red light and a car beeps their horn because it turns green. And I remember being like startled awake, seeing the green light and starting to cry, right? Because I was like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired and I must go on. I didn't feel any inner agency to just stop, right? So something stopped me, as Dr. Dre says, lay down or be laid down, right? And so I got laid down by this injury and physical fatigue and exhaustion. And so I just wanted to name that because we all are getting whispers of you need to rest, you need to rest. And what is rest? Rest is a way to sustain ourselves. Rest is as essential to our being as the water we drink and the air we breathe. And so, how rest can support our communities, for me, it's like I actually go, how does work support our communities? Rest does the same things. And that like might take a minute to process. Someone might hear that and go, "What on earth is she talking about?" But we say, "I work to sustain my family." Rest is sustenance. I work as a way to connect and be in community. Rest connects us inwardly, restores our relationship to that which empowers us. And thus, anything we do from a rested place is going to be done from a place of more clarity, more rootedness, more groundedness. And then just on the tip of taking care of this physical vessel, this physical body that we have, we all know what it feels like when we're running on E. We know what we engage with our family and friends and coworkers like when we're about under E. We know that when our phones are on 5%, we rummaging through jars, doing everything to plug it up. But when we're on negative 5%, we're still like, oh, okay, I'll keep going. It doesn't make sense that we treat the devices we have with more awareness around energy input and output than we do for ourselves. Um, and so I often say a well-rested person is actually an unstoppable person. And I don't say that as much anymore because I'm like, well, actually, sometimes we do. Who do I really want to be unstoppable? I just want to be well rested, right? And then what's happening to our nervous systems when we are perpetually in motion is that we don't have any time to really feel, to process, to release, to really take full stock of what's actually happening in and around us. We're just doing, right? And so for me personally, and then my work, right? Because my work is I rest with folks, which is amazing. And I feel so blessed to do that. Rest improves the quality of my relationship with myself, with that whom I consider the most divine, and the cost of that with everybody else. And when relationship to self is improved, relationship to family, community, and all the identities we hold dear, right? Like some of my identities, like mother, wife, author, it fortifies all of that. And so ultimately for me, when I talk about rest and as I think about rest and I actually engage in my rest practice, it is a sustainability practice. It is a sustainability practice. I feel like I should say that again. It's about sustaining. And I really feel like so many of the ways that we are living, relating, and working have an expiration date that's sooner than we want it to be because it's just not sustainable. We're acting like we're running a marathon every day, but we're not. Or these rapid sprints every day, it is not sustainable. And when the way we're engaging with each other and ourselves isn't sustainable, it ripples out to how we engage with the earth. I don't know a lot about gardening, but I've been reading a little bit and I've had a few like earth folks reach out to me because they're really interested in the connection between like how this body needs rest and how the body of earth needs rest. Because they're like, you can't just keep planting and keep working the soil and think it's going to yield any harvest. At some point, earth just goes, now we done. I'm drying up, right? And that's we come from earth, right? And so I'm not gonna act like I'm like I know all the things about gardening, but I'm like, there's nothing on God's green earth that doesn't need a season or a time of rest. Why are we treating ourselves like we're any different?
Mm, mm, mm.
And of course, right, things need to get done, but at what expense? What's it costing us to live in this I can't slow down, can't stop, won't stop, grind to the end. I'll sleep when I die. What, Shawty? Not me. I'm about to sleep. Like I
Right.
need rest.
It's so interesting though, because I think of you, Wes, when she said the marathon don't stop, won't stop. Wes is a big Nipsey Hussle fan. And when I think of and I want you to chime in too, Wes, but after, you're really, to me, breaking down systems, because I'm talking about Black folks, and I'm talking about brown folks, and I'm talking about people who have been relied on to build the earth. Like I'm thinking, like I'm from California. I'm thinking about driving to Oxnard and seeing all my Latino and Latina brothers and sisters working the fields. Cesar Chavez, and I'm thinking of us picking cotton, our ancestors doing that, and that's the past, and it's the current, and it's the present, and it's like you're speaking to rest as it being sustainable and life-giving, and that in it of itself is movement forward, and you have autonomy over that, and that's the key. I don't see historically where we've been given autonomy over our own power. I'm going to rest now. I'm going to do this now, even in our capitalistic system now. No, you work 8 hours, you get a 30-minute lunch break, you get 2 15-minute lunch breaks. Like, to tell people, no, you have agency over yourself and you create your schedule. Like you said something where it's like you look at how you rest. You look at the time, how you rest. Like you look at the schedule. We're not told to do that. And so it's really breaking systems to tell people that.
No, definitely. It's I feel like you talking to me right now. All right, Octavia, because I mean, a couple of years ago, I caught rhabdo myself, and so I've never had someone else say that they've caught it. I got it as an athlete competing in CrossFit and just going. I acquired my disability before I got really active and fit. So once I got hyped into like this fitness world and then became a Black adaptive athlete, which I didn't see. And especially coming from where I come from, it was a hunger to like go, get like that first place, like get on that stage. Like I was just hungry for it because I knew I represented something and I wanted to show the power in it. I never gave myself time to rest because I didn't see nobody like me, right? Like, and so that was for me. I woke up in a hospital, because I didn't stop going, right? Like I didn't listen to the whispers. I mean, and in this whole process, I had even fractured my femur just prior, right? Like it had been maybe over a week's time before I knew I had a fractured femur and rhabdo, right? Like waking up in the hospital. And let me tell you, I know this is a serious situation, but let me tell you how they found out something was wrong with me. My cousin asked me who is the president, and it was Obama, and I didn't know. And she's like, "Oh no, you got to go to the hospital."
He's like, "That boy is sick.
Something's not right." Yeah.
And literally made it to the hospital, and I'll be again transparent. Until now, I'm really just this conversation because I kept going after. All right, so that's my transparency. I didn't even listen to it. I rested. I did. I built a lot in that time that I took time to myself. I gave myself time to heal. But once I was healed, I got back out and I started going, and life got fast. And here we are again, where I finally started to pay attention to my life and my rest again. And so it's like you're speaking to me, even in a different sense, because it's like, look at all you've been through. You just done went so fast and far that you keep forgetting. You know what I mean? Like I've even had to tell people like, man, I done forgot I was paralyzed. Shit. Like seriously, I'm moving around so much that it seemed like my legs work. And now everybody else is getting that perspective instead of me giving my physical body rest and my mental, and so no, you literally that just spoke to me because I'm like, I've really done went through things and rest is important. And I think when prior to this, April was talking about it like that inclusive and that rest. And I think now I'm just speaking to even the disabled community in a sense of, our bodies and our awareness of what we need to do to live an independent life keeps us going, but we have to pay attention to our bodies and our limitations to give that part of us rest. You know, that's like literally because this here has operated amazingly to give me what I need in life. But I forgot the bottom part. You know what I mean? I forgot the part that's limited because I'm so much going from here. So you just really spoke to me in that. So again, just speaking to everybody from, at least from what I represent, we have to take time, because I was at a breaking stage, or like literally a breaking point before I went to Cali last week. And I found so much peace just within just earth and within like the moments of not having to work and give myself rest. So woo, I'm telling you.
I had us sitting by the ocean. I was like, this is where I'm staying by the fish and the sea and the earth, Octavia, because I am a big, like, walk around barefoot. Our ancestors come from earth. Yeah. We know the land. That's why we were chosen to work land for other people. Let's take it back. And I like what you said, Wes, and it makes me think of, like, Octavia and I come from this yogic tradition, right? And the power of the practice is knowing yourself and knowing your body and sensing and feeling into it and knowing where your strengths, your possibilities are, and knowing where your weaknesses are and your limitations are, not to do anything but gather information from it. And I love when you said, and when you know that, you can be in it and you can restore yourself in that. Octavia, there's so many things that we could talk forever.
Yeah, Wes, thank you for sharing that.
She's going to read to us.
Yeah.
She's tired too, y'all. We don't want to keep her up on a Sunday.
Well, but you know, the thing is, I want to honor what you said, Wes, and I want to name the places that we might experience as limitations, as holy places, as tender places, as places that you talked about your mind being up here, forgetting the lower part. And my invitation, like, your mind is clearly expansive and powerful. And how powerful to, you know, if you could start to, like, mind, move it down to heart, move it down to the rest of your body, right? Like the places, sometimes the place that feels wounded, or we're like, why is it that way? Or we've lived with, it's like, how can we, and I don't say this like it's easy, how can we reframe that as, this is a holy site? This is a sacred site. Because some of what we're trying to overcompensate or overwork for is this, I'll speak in I terms. I felt like my only worth, my greatest worth, was in what I could produce, prove, show, or perform for others. And I don't think I'm alone in doing that. And so one thing that rest does on the sneak tip is, so we're resting, right? Doing nothing. Who are we? So this question bubbles to the surface. Who am I when I'm not doing anything? And for some of us, it's like, oh my God, I cannot rest. I don't want to be with this question. Like when I'm not mothering, when I'm not writing, when I'm not teaching, when I'm not, creating, when I'm not, I like to, design interior spaces, like whenever I'm not doing all the things and I'm therefore doing nothing or being, who am I? And that's initially very uncomfortable. Then the question becomes like, well, what's my worth if I'm not? And it's very confrontational. Questions arise in rest. And ultimately, those answers are the ones that support us in resting more. And what I mean by that is you come to, I am. I am expansive. You come to, I think about India Arie's song, like when she's like, I am light. I'm like, this lady was meditating. Like she was having these direct experiences of being both a deeply embodied person and also more than the body we're in. And so some of what keeps us running versus resting is, I got something to prove. And I understand that as a Black woman, as a Southern born and raised Black woman, as a growing up in poverty, all of these layers to who I have been. And the rest has been this way for me to reclaim my humanity just because I am, just because I exist. And ultimately, I'm more myself and I shine brighter from that authentic place. I don't do because I'm trying to prove. I do because I know I already am. And the two books I've written in the last 2 years came out of this place of quietude and rest. And it is because in that place we hear things that we just can't hear if we stay super busy, right? So I'm just naming all of that to say those places in our bodies that we struggle with, that we grapple with, that people might point at, that we've been hurt through, all of those. I could keep naming things, but to invite in, this is a holy place, this is a sacred place. And sometimes when we have that place in our body, we want to bypass it, right? And we'll be like, I'll make sure the things that do move the way I want them to move or the way the world thinks they should move, I work them. It sounds like you overtaxed certain parts of your being for many reasons, right? And so body is holy site. And then I also want to honor that resting reminds us that we are valuable because we exist. And that's why I want people to go to that place of rest more and more, because then whatever you do from this place of I am valuable just as I am, that is very different than I got something to prove. And I don't say any of this like it's easy or like many of us who have lived on the margins and suffer systemic oppression like that, like any of this is easy. That I know we have to work twice as hard, all of those things in this one sense. And for me, it's also why I'm like, and I choose rest. And the final thing I want to say about that is I've been thinking about this so much. Some people don't start certain practices because they feel like they don't have time for it, or it needs to be an hour, it needs to be 90 minutes. I'm like, do you got 3 minutes? Start right there. You got 10 minutes, start right there. And what do you do in that 3 minutes or 10 minutes? Close your eyes or keep them open, right? If that's more comfortable to you. Sit and breathe. Do one thing versus multitask. Drink one cup of water really slowly. I'm like, it's really like for me, rest is also what restores you. And my question to everyone is just what do you do to restore you, right? Most of us are out here giving out, giving out, giving out. Like if we're a cup, we're like pouring some over here, pouring some for the homies, pouring some, they're just pouring it out. We get to the bottom of the cup, then what most of us do is start then scraping up what's at the bottom. And now we're extremely empty, right? And so we have to tune into like, well, what and who restores me, and go to that fountain daily in some way, you know? So that's what I want to say about that. And the last thing I want to share is that years ago, when I first started teaching rest and probably made a lot of missteps. So I'm in Powder Springs, Georgia, but I used to live in Atlanta. And the studio I was working at was by the Shepherd Center in Atlanta, which is, they do a lot of work around spinal cord injury, and a lot of the people they serve don't have use of all their limbs. And so I would have students come to practice from the Shepherd Center sometimes. And I had a young woman come who was in a wheelchair, and she couldn't move any part of her body. And at first she was like, I'll just stay in the chair, when she came to class. And I said, whatever is comfortable for you, you can do that. And then she was crying and she was like, well, I do want to get on the floor. And so I said, can we help you get on the floor? And it was actually a restorative yoga nidra class where you take a lot of different poses supine. And so we all supported her in getting to the floor. We all made sure she was really propped up, supported, held pillows behind her head, wrapped her ankles. We just took care of her body. And then I did this practice that I might do some today, which is just bring awareness to the body parts. Bring awareness to your toes, relax your toes, bring awareness to your ankle, relax your ankle. We go through this whole thing, and then I go up and then I go back down through the body. And after class again, she's just like tears streaming. She's like, I couldn't feel my body, but I could connect to every part of it. And I haven't been able to do that since the injury that caused her to lose the feeling in her arms and legs. And that was years ago, and it transformed me. And it was when I realized that rest had the power to awaken us, right? There are places that feel numb within us, are dormant, or we're just disconnected to it for whatever reason, pain, injury, all of that. And when she looked at me and she said, I can't move my hand, but I, like, whatever was happening in here, I could connect to my fingertips. And that was a transformational moment for me as a teacher. And I know there were layers to that. Like, she got this physical support, we're in community, but also rest awakens us, right? And so what I think is beautiful is that here today we're doing it in community, because I actually think to be still takes courage. I don't know if that particular student would have, and she told me, like, the courage to be still in that way and not be just thinking up stuff to do or whatever. She was like, that would be confrontational alone. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that. So I wanted to share that might be relevant to someone who's listening. And it changed me as a teacher and practitioner.
That's beautiful. And the power of collective spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, as a person, as a spinal cord injury, I love it. Fucking love it. No, but but I mean, that's my work that I do now, and it's just trying to get in spaces and teach people, or to help individuals become more inclusive just by participating in practices, and then we all learn together. My awareness of, we all have to learn something together for us to be comfortable at times. That's like that space. And you guys came in with, it was that empathy. You didn't look at anything. You had already created a space of awareness and those things. And I think that it spoke to me, because a lot of people don't create the space to just be open-minded and welcoming to all bodies, and so that's what that's what I really got from that, was just y'all were welcoming. So that meant whatever you needed to do to adapt to the situation, you were willing and freely willing to do so, and it became something that was transformative for everybody. And I think that experience is the way we should all experience life, because we will learn so much that way. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is beautiful. So we were going to have you read, and I wanted to pop in and share two things. One, Octavia speaks to all generations, right? And I just shared this with Wes. I was telling my sister, I was reading, like, when you bring people into your life, you never know who's going to mentor you and who's going to support you and lift you up. And that person can be older than you. That person can be younger than you. Like, people come in with all different experiences. And as I read about you and your cousin, and you're like, my cousin went to college and he would come home and bought Marley and Sade tapes. I was like, dang it, I'm the same age as her older cousin. I cracked up at that. I loved it. I was like, I still learned so much from you. And even just this morning, Wes has met. This is my baby cousin, but we're about to have another April baby in our family. There are 3 of us who were born in April, and I took a picture. I went back to review, because I have your book tabbed. You guys, I've used Octavia's book. I do coaching and consulting for nonprofits and for executive leaders of color for nonprofits, and I have done resiliency workshops. Octavia, I've been using your book and sharing your book. We bought like almost 30 books. I've been like throwing your books around. You get a book, you get a book, you get a book.
You out here signing books.
And I took a picture of the story of the woman warrior and how we all are warriors. We're all impregnated with something, and we all can like nurture ourselves and care for ourselves during that time. So I sent her that this morning, and I like that about your book, is that you can always go back to it. It's so simplistic that you can just grasp it at any time. You could read it all in one setting. You can go back and forth to it. There's so many things that can really support you in the sustainability of the practice, because as you've said, you keep coming back to it. You don't rest one good time and then you're like, all right, I'm ready for the rest of my life. It's always a practice. It's always something to do.
And we have seasons, right? Like there's winter, spring, summer, fall. But we be out here acting like it's spring and summer every day. You know, and like to be clear, you know, like during my book launch, though it was in February, I said, you know what, I yield to this season that is like summer. And that means I'm going to, like, in May, I'm taking a whole sabbatical. I will create my winter, right? And so that's what I'm saying. Like, sometimes in life, we're going to have those moments where we're also really awake and excited, and there's so much bubbling to the surface, and we want to go full force into that. And I invite people just to then look ahead and go, where am I gonna take my off season? You know, to have like kind of have these like hills, these peaks and dip downs versus like all the way up, all the time until I collapse. Right? That's what a lot of us are doing.
Wes, I think as we're putting together, Wes and I have big plans. Wes is a really big visionary, and I'm like, I am too, but he's like, we're doing it, April.
Yes, he's the visionary and activator.
He activates. And I think we need to have a workshop. We need Octavia to be a speaker and have like a rest practice.
I definitely think I bring the passion out of your voice and just how authentic you just let your words speak. Just resonates. Like I said, you've been speaking to me this whole time. I'm like, I could sit here and rest and listen to Octavia. So
do it. Let's do it.
I do. I think that is something that's powerful. And yeah, I think that at least for us, what we've done with this space is bring amazing and powerful individuals like yourself on here to speak your truth and speak your passion. And so you do it so, again, freely, that's what we want to bring. And we want to try, as the world starts to come back together in a sense, try to bring that into a physical form, and so yeah, so definitely we want to keep that up there, because I think that we could all use it. I mean, I'll probably be back a year later like, you know what, Octavia,
what's the next book you wrote, and what are we doing today?
Get me on the book list. I'm gonna need them all.
Oh my gosh. And I love it. It's like you're tying everything together. Like my Atlanta roots, my kids are born and raised there. I lived there 12 years. And I just love that everything comes together. So for everyone out there, Octavia is going to read and have us go through a rest practice.
Yes. So I want to invite us first to just keep eyes wide open and to just take a breath and let all the words, all the emotions, all of what's been stirred up here start to settle and land. And just to notice if you've heard something that feels like a little seed got dropped into the soil of your being. And then I like to invite folks to, and we can do this as a model, to share where physically they are located in the chat. And what I mean by physically is I'm in Powder Springs, Georgia. Actually, right now I'm in Chattahoochee Hills, Georgia, at a place called Serenbe, sitting in a guest house. And like, I want to know where you are. So you might say the city, the state, and the room, and if it has some significance to you. And Wes and April, y'all could just share that too. And the reason why I like to invite people to just do that in the way that they can, right? You could share it, you could type it. It's in this kind of virtual space. It helps to give sense of place, and it also helps us to understand how dynamic and vast the circle that we weave is. Yeah. So where are you? And if all you want to tell us is city and state, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. Sitting in my home, in my living room, at my desk, surrounded by books and just space.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah. And April, you can say it or you can share it in the chat. For
Yeah,
people listening, they can just share it in the chat, obviously.
I am in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm in my dining room area, in my this is my Zoom space. It's my happy wall though that I created. In my comfy, what do you call it, athleisure wear, sitting in my chair with my soft blanket underneath and my feet propped up, just relaxing in the kitchen.
Yeah. And so then you just notice what it feels like, right, in your body or in your breath, just to know a little bit more about where who you're listening to or talking to is situated in space and time. And just noticing what that even does for your own nervous system. And I also want to honor my one of my mentors, my yoga mama and teacher, Dr. Gail Parker. She's the one who taught me to do that online with people. She's like, get a real sense of where people are.
I have
It,
some
it,
comments too when you're finished that of
yeah.
people who shared, and I could share what was.
Oh yeah, awesome. Yeah, yeah. And then the second question, I like for people to close their eyes if they feel comfortable doing that in the space they're in, and if not, because that's not always what we want to do. Just fix your gaze on one point that's not moving and take another deep breath in through your nose and exhale in any way that comes organically. And then what part of you is most in need of rest today? And go with the first answer. Sometimes we want the cute answer. We want the like for the gram answer. But just what part of you is most in need of rest? Likely something pops up right then. And you can share that in the chat. And if people share that, April, I do want you to, if it feels right for you, to read it aloud because it helps us to hear we're not the only one tired in that way, right?
Yes, I'll share those as soon as they come up. I will share we have someone in Los Angeles in their kitchen. We had somebody who's in Frick Park stretching, relaxing for a run, and someone's in a basement under their weighted blanket.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what part of you is most in need of rest? And then eyes can stay open or closed. Notice this body, this vessel for your essence and your spirit. And notice if there's a movement the body needs or shifting the body needs before we settle into stillness, right? So I honor that coming right into stillness isn't always what we want to do. And it might just be we want to blink the eyes or wiggle the nose or move the head from left to right. And then once you've done whatever you need to do to kind of, I call it work out the wiggles, but I hang around 5-year-olds because I have one, right? So I use language like wiggles sometimes. Once you've gotten any wiggles you might have out, then you can just ease back into your chair, lay down in your bed, sit in your favorite chair, do something that signifies comfort to your body and mind.
And I do
really do that.
I have some responses on that area that needs rest.
Mm-hmm.
One person said their back. Another said decision making. Their eyes. Someone else said their eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. So lay down, ease back in your chair. If you're at a desk, you can even put your head down. Sometimes rest is just doing this. When I used to teach 8th grade, I would say, you know what, when you need a moment, just put your head in your hands. And they go, what? I can really do that? Because most of the time adults are like, don't do that. That's rude. And I'm like, well, actually, this is a little bit like an inversion. Shift perspective. I mean, we could just sit here like this for a minute and then we'll come up. That's a rest practice, right? So sometimes, because I'm using the language rest, people are like, do I have to get in bed? I'm like, just sit, just pause, right? And that could be for a minute, whatever you got. So shift in some way that signifies this can be easy. Eyes can be closed, the eyes can be open. And take another deep breath in through your nose. And exhale however it naturally falls. Do that 4 more times, breathing in, breathing out. On your next inhale, just silently say to yourself, so this is in your mind, I am worthy. And on your exhale of rest. And 2 more times on your inhale, sense that you are literally breathing in, I am worthy. And when you exhale, you're exhaling around you and through you of rest. And you do that 1 more time, I am worthy of rest. And then you just notice, right? So there we are, that was 5 breaths, 5 beats of stillness. And we notice, right? Notice body, notice minds, even notice heart and emotions. And what I mean by notice is pay attention. Just pay attention. Your attention is so valuable. So much is fighting for your attention. Pay attention to yourself. Give yourself your attention. So if your mind starts wandering at any point, you can come back to inhale, I'm worthy, exhale of rest. And that just helps to give your mind an anchor, a place to land versus running forward into the future, which it likes to do, or reaching back into the past. Bring your awareness and attention to your toes. And just notice toes. Attention to top of foot and bottom of foot. Bring awareness to ankles. Attention to ankles. Notice shins, calves, knees, thighs, glutes, and hips. Notice right leg, Notice left leg. Notice right foot. Notice left foot. Notice both legs and feet together. Notice glutes. Notice lower back. Notice middle back. Notice upper back and shoulders. Notice back of neck, back of head. Notice top of head. Notice the forehead and the face. Notice the front of the neck. Notice the shoulders one time. Then notice the shoulders a second time. Notice the shoulders a third time, and then notice a fourth and even a fifth time. And just notice what happens every time you bring your attention and awareness to the shoulders. Do you see how your attention and awareness can shift your body without necessarily moving it? Bring awareness to the right shoulder, the right upper arm, the right elbow, the right forearm, the right wrist. Bring awareness to the right fingertips and hand. Bring awareness to the left shoulder, awareness to the left upper arm, awareness to the left elbow, awareness to the left forearm, awareness to the left wrist, awareness to the left fingertips and hand. From the right shoulder to the right fingertips, notice the right arm. From the left shoulder to the left fingertips, notice the left arm. Notice both arms and hands and sets of fingertips together. And please notice the shoulders one more time. Notice the space around the collarbone. Notice the space around the chest. Notice the abdomen. Notice the waist. Notice hips. Notice glutes. Notice right leg, right foot, left foot. Notice the whole body from the tips of the toes all the way up to the top of the head. From the top of the head all the way back down to the tips of the toes. Relax the whole body in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. body completely relaxed, here to be restored. Relax the mind, relax the mind, relax the mind in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mind is totally relaxed, is here to be restored. Bring awareness to the center of the chest, the spiritual heart center. Relax your heart. Relax the heart. Relax the heart. Relax the heart and emotions. Relax the heart and emotions. Relax heart and emotions totally and completely. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. The heart, the emotions are totally and completely relaxed, here to be restored. On the next inhale, sense a wave of peace move from the top of the head all the way down to the tips of the toes. It's like a wave of peace raining down. And then sense a wave of peace rising up from the tips of the toes to the crown of the head. And then sense a wave of peace moving from the base of the throat to the tips of the toes, from the tips of the toes to the base of the throat, a wave of peace moving through. Awareness at the center of the chest. Sense a wave of peace moving from the center of the chest to the tips of the toes, tips of toes back to the center of the chest, a wave of peace. Awareness at the base of the spine. A wave of peace from base of spine to tips of toes. From tips of toes back to base of spine, wave of peace. A wave of peace from the center of the pelvis to the tips of the toes. Tips of toes back to the center of the pelvis. A wave of peace from the knees to the toes. Toes to knees, wave of peace. A Wave of peace from the ankles to the toes, from the toes to the ankles. Sense a wave of peace rising from the tips of the toes to the crown of the head and then falling, a holy mist of peace from the top of the head to the tips of the toes. And perhaps sense that that wave knows exactly where it is most needed within your body, mind, heart, emotions, and goes there now. And you rest in this awareness. And what I like to do is just usually say a little prayer, and it's just what word do you have for us today? What will be most useful to everyone visibly on this call and everyone who's here in real time and who might hear and see this afterwards? And then I open Pause Rest Be and I read whatever page I open to. And today what I open to is this. You can't muscle through this. This requires surrender. Surrender does not mean giving up. It means giving over. A giving over to something or someone with everlasting arms that you can lean into and be held by. Call in grace. You are in an unfamiliar place. You meticulously packed your bags for the journey. You thought you had a map, compass, or guide. It turns out that you only have your senses. If that is all you have, trust it is enough. You are not alone. You are not alone. There are forces seen and unseen walking with you. Rest here for 5 more breaths. And just begin to, on the next inhale, silently say again, I am. And on the exhale, worthy of rest. I am worthy of rest. I am worthy of rest. I am worthy of rest. And we can just start to shorten that to I am worthy, to I am worthy, to I am worthy. And we'll shorten that to I am. I am. Inhale, I am. Exhale, I am. Notice your body. Notice your mind. Notice your heart. Notice your emotions. Notice that place within you that you noted was in need of rest. And honor yourself in your own way for resting. Acknowledge that just because we're doing nothing doesn't mean that nothing's happening. Notice that even though we hardly moved, something might have shifted from the inside out. Rest restores our power. Take a deep breath in. Exhale out. Bring any small movement into the body. It could be, again, I like to just like wiggle my nose sometimes or just move my head from left to right. Whatever movement's available to you, you do that. And when you're ready, you can just slowly open your eyes. Take whatever movements you need. And so I think that rest is a really generative space, a creative space. And so I usually take a few minutes, sometimes just a second, right? Sometimes I just write down a word, whatever is right at the tip of my heart or mind. I just write something in my journal, or if I'm on my computer, type it down. Because rest is also a practice of remembering who and what we are, right? So things come up to the surface that we're like, oh, yeah, when we get quiet and still enough. So thank you all. Notice how you're feeling. Notice what has shifted. Notice if now maybe something you heard from either one of us on this call makes more sense. You know, you might have heard something that you're like, huh, and now you're like, once you practice, the words make more sense. Mhm. How y'all feeling?
Right.
It was much. It was very much needed. I didn't think how much my body needed to be relaxed, even in those moments. You know, until I started to rest, I just kept feeling different areas of release.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
It was definitely.
But it's also really powerful because this mind, where is mind? But you know, we can take attention out, we can put attention anywhere, but when you take it to your left shoulder, you're like, oh, I can soften my shoulder with my mind. You know, it's so powerful, right? And so basically that just helps us be in this body, in this present moment. And the truth of the matter is really this is all we have. We think we have something else, but we don't. We have this moment. And so this is how rest helps us to be deeply and fully present to the moment we're in, and with whoever's in that moment with us. I think one of your first questions, April, was how can this help our family and friends? Notice how present you feel with yourself. And then if you just turned and sat with someone else, they'd also be the beneficiary of that level of presence.
Yeah. There's some commentary. I wanted to also, there are two words that came up for this person in feelings: ease and release.
Yeah.
That's what came up. There was another person who said grow was the word that came to mind.
And we know that like dormancy or rest is also a part of growth, right? I noticed that with my son. Well, he's 5 now, but little people can sleep 18 hours a day sometimes, right? And I asked this pediatrician, she was like, because he's growing. It takes a lot of energy to grow. And I just was like, okay. Right? You know, like it takes a lot of energy to grow. And how might we actually stifle our growth by not allowing that kind of follow that like still season, that still moment, whatever it might be. It might need to be a minute, it might be 10 minutes, it might need to be a day, you know, it might need to be a month, you know. But just to keep in mind that growth requires rest, sustainable growth. Those words are beautiful: grow, ease, and release. And that captures it. That's why I rest.
Somebody asked what words came up for us.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a good one. I'll say, one, I didn't share this, but I've been having tension in this area. I carry my tension here. My chiropractor knows it. My masseuse knows it. Like everybody who comes in to do body work for me. And I've been very intentional about making myself go to the chiropractor and masseuse. And I don't go regularly enough. So I come, I'm all like this. And they're like, oh my gosh, April. So everyone thinks I'm so at ease and at peace. And I hold it in. And that connection to our bodies, healing, I guess would be one of my words, because if I recognize, I pay attention to the left side, because when you have a heart attack or a stroke, it usually will come to your left side. And I recognize like I have the power to release that, but only when I really sit in it and feel it. If I don't feel it, I'm going to continuously tense it. But when I feel it, I say, okay, unlock your jaw, April. Drop your shoulder, sit back. Which muscles are tight? Breathe into the muscles. Give that muscle attention. And so I truly believe that it's a medicinal practice. It's a healing practice. So that came up for me. And then that wave of peace, and just you saying waves. And I just shared, we were at the ocean. Like I would walk 3 miles. I would walk 6 miles. I go to the beach. I put my feet in the water. I would just sit. I would smell. I would live at the ocean. I am going to go back and live at the ocean. That sat with me, just that wave. That was a word that came from me. So somebody asked, what are your words too?
Mine was awareness for the most part. It really, every every time that I don't know, I needed to become more aware. I know I shared that earlier about like resting and basically being aware of my full body and not just, my mental. And so that's really what just kept coming up, was just awareness of my space, my being, my body, my peace, you know, everything that's within I am. And it was like in order for me to know truly who I am and truly all the things that I am, I have to be aware. And so awareness continually popped up, first and foremost. And then just that peace factor. I've been big on this year being peace, being at peace and being in peace. And that really just, that's what I felt. And I was just more aware that I want to be toward peace. I always want to be in that space.
Yeah. And my word, even though I was guiding, is trust, right? Trust the practice. The practice is going to say and reveal so much more than anything I could say or we could say. The messages come forward and through, and we can actually tune into to them while they're a whisper, or they become a scream. Right? We started this conversation with that. Yeah. So that's good. We can just notice how we feel, right? Then we go move back. We go move back into the day, and the aroma of the practice kind of goes away a little bit. And it's beautiful in this one way, because that brings us back to the practice. Oh, fell out. That brings, y'all can hear me.
We can
That brings us back to the practice again and again and again. And I'm grateful that I don't have to figure it all out in one practice, and that I get to practice again the next day in whatever way it is.
That's key. Octavia, thank you. I something came to my mind too. Don't just talk about it, be about it. You know how we like that phrase is thrown around.
Yeah.
We were about it today, everybody. Like, Wes and I always talk. We end, what books are you reading? And actually, I guess we should kind of ask that. I mean, I know you are an author, Octavia. You talked about your mentor. What fills your spirit and your soul? What podcasts, what books, like what do you do in your off time to nourish yourself? We just all read your book, so we're excited. That was like top of our list. But what about for you?
So I'm here at this place called Serenbe right now. And when I get off this call, I'm going to go walk the labyrinth and just like meditate and pray. I take a lot of walks outside. I have this newfound relationship and awareness of the earth and how important it is to be in an actual relationship with the land that we inhabit. Radiant Rest by Tracy Stanley is one of my favorite books.
Yeah, we've had that on.
Transforming Ethnic and Race-Based Stress and Trauma by Dr. Gail Parker is an incredible book. I love her first book, and the second book has so many transformational and accessible practices that are blowing my mind right now, and my body too, because they're all rest-based. And Finding Refuge by Michelle Cassandra Johnson. It's about, transforming collective grief. That's really powerful for me. And so I practice yoga nidra every day. I do something like what we just did. Sometimes when I'm just sitting, I go, notice your feet, notice your, because it also helps me to get present, because the mind can be anywhere. It's a time traveler, which is amazing. That joint is exhausting, though, right? And whenever I'm like, okay, I'm doing it again, because like I'm a very imaginative, creative person. Great. And sometimes when someone's in front of me, it's like, get in your body and be grounded here. And so I do what we just did. So much. I'm very intentional. I pay attention to my calendar. And I work with people, I rest with people one-to-one. And I offered one of my students the other day, I said, everywhere on your calendar where you're giving out, I'm going to actually need you to create a way to pour back in. And I was like, I know this sounds radical, and your work is changing lives, and it's about sustainability. And if you run out, so much else runs out. And so I honor that myself. My calendar's closed on Wednesdays, is about to be closed on Mondays, which is a radical, and it takes courage to be this right way. And I also go in deeply on the other days that I do work. So I'm in constant practice and in constant inquiry around how I can stay restored. And for me, it's also really about living on purpose and with purpose. And I'm clear when something's aligned and not aligned. Like I'm here because when you asked me, I felt in my heart the answer was yes. Not in my head, not in I ought to, should to. I don't really play those games with myself anymore, because that'll have your calendar looking like, you have all those different colors, like a Rubik's Cube all over the place, right? Like I'm like, I don't, and so I do a lot of very practical things to protect my rest space. So you asked one question, I gave you all those answers,
and they were all perfect. Taking notes. Thank you. And we're going to share the books. We've shared Tracy Stanley's book because I read it, because I was honored. I followed her for years, and then, just so you guys know, if Octavia gives a workshop, you need to jump in and get on it, because Tracy Stanley spent like 4+ hours with us in a small group setting. There are only like 12 of us. So there was an intimacy to that, and it was beautiful. And I was able to read her book. And the next time I came on with Wes, I'm like, hey, there's this book you guys gotta read. So we'll share those books and share those practices. And we thank you so much for just guiding this collective, this community, this space into what it looks like and feels like and what it can do for us. Somebody said, putting rest and pouring into yourself on your calendar. I love it. Wes, do you have any closing things that you want to share as we give Octavia time to go walk the labyrinth? I want to be there with you. I love it. To walk.
No, I love it. I just think, thank you for giving us time to give ourselves rest, even on this Sunday, and yeah, even allowing that confirmation of blocking out that calendar extra day. So I'm just saying, I've been working on it, but I want to work on it a little bit more. So everything that you gave us has provided clarity in my life, but also I'm sure a lot of my listeners and followers. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's all about healing ourselves. We have a lot of layers, you guys. We have layers upon layers. And we have layers of stress and harshness, and we have layers and layers and layers we can go to for our peace and our restoration. Thanks for giving that to us today, Octavia.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for the courage, showing up with courage, because it takes courage to be here. It takes courage to trust that I can stop and everything will be all right. Might actually be better.
Yes, 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 yes.
So thank you.
All right. Well, until we meet again, everyone, Wes and I will be back next. Well, actually, we'll be back April 3rd, very soon, with Taylor Pinkston, the Heart Advocate. And this is not the last. Hope you guys keep praying. It lays on Octavia's heart to be with us. We're connected. We're connected. We're connected in beautiful ways on the right time. Oh my gosh. All right. And with that, we'll leave you guys to your Sunday. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us and listening to the podcast. If you would like more information on the guests and the stories that you've heard today, and to hear stories from others, subscribe to the podcast. We also invite you to subscribe to Open Up Pittsburgh's newsletter, as well as our YouTube channel. We want you all to take care, and remember to make your own stories. This is April. Peace.